Last year here on Geekdom 101, I released the Omnibus discussing all Super Saiyan forms from Dragon Ball Z in the Transformation Guide. But notice I said Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball Z is far from the only Dragon Ball series. After Z came Dragon Ball GT, which gave us a number of new transformations. And on today's video, we're going to look at GT. We're going to start with the Golden Grade 8 form, Golden Oozaru, one of my absolute favorites, and move on to Super Saiyan 4 and Super Saiyan 4 Full Power, which is another sort of mutation from regular Super Saiyan 4 that is not often discussed, but one of the cooler aspects of the series. Let's begin with Golden Grade 8 next. So a lot of people really don't like Dragon Ball GT, but one of the things Dragon Ball GT did that I always found really cool is that they would reference things from Dragon Ball Z, even small things, and turn them into full story arcs or concepts for GT. For example, when the old Supreme Kai warned the people about using the Dragon Balls and overusing them for these purposes, that wound up being the story concept that would lead into the Dark Dragon arc of GT. And with Golden Oozaru, Golden Grade 8, it's very similar. Obviously, like I said in my Truth About Dragon Ball GT video, Toriyama's involvement in GT has been very much misunderstood by fans. He was involved in the early stages of the project, but later on, as the series progressed, he took a step back and other people came along to kind of take the reins of the creative direction. But one thing that I found fascinating is that when it comes to the Golden Oozaru, Golden Grade 8 form, this whole thing, this whole concept started in a Dragon Ball Z episode featuring Vegeta having a flashback of the original Super Saiyan. When Goku shows up on Namek to elbow Recoome, Vegeta's freaking out. And he's talking about how the last Super Saiyan, which was, I believe, 1,000 years before, even though I think in the old English dub they said 3,000, which was a mistake. But basically, Vegeta heard throughout the years, throughout the legends, that he could only maintain the form while being in Grade 8. And I'm not going to get into a whole debate about who is Legendary Super Saiyan, because that's a different topic. Like, you could sit here and debate Bardock or Yamoshi or Broly, but that's, again, different topic, different video. Nonetheless, Vegeta, hearing this legend for years and years since he was a child, had heard that it could only be done in golden form. And then when Dragon Ball GT came around, they took that concept and actually materialized it into a transformation that Goku is the first one outside of that original Super Saiyan to actually achieve this power. And when I was a kid and I first saw Dragon Ball GT, I always assumed that Golden Grade 8 was the true Super Saiyan transformation. In fact, there was a theory that went around for years that I kind of agreed with, where Super Saiyan 1, 2, and 3 were just mutations and the true form was Golden Oozaru. Now, obviously, because the Golden Oozaru form did not really come from Toriyama to my knowledge, it's just a bad retcon. It's not one that I really want to think about. But it is a popular theory and one that does make sense within the confines of GT. So if you follow the Dragon Ball timeline and include GT in your personal continuity or canon, it does kind of make sense that this is the true Super Saiyan form. And it all started, the whole concept is from this one flashback in an old DBZ episode that aired years earlier. So anyways, this form is referred to as Golden Grade 8, Golden Oozaru, Ogon Oozaru, and to some people, Super Saiyan Grade 8 or Super Oozaru, but that's more of a fan-made term than anything else. The Dragon Ball GT Perfect Files actually validates the legendary status of this form. But what's interesting is how they achieve this form. You cannot become a Golden Grade 8 just by training. And I like that about this form, and that's very different. What happens is during the baby arc of Dragon Ball GT, Goku is of course back to being a kid again because of Pilaf Switch at the very beginning of the series, and he's battling it out with Baby on planet Sufuru, or New Planet Plant, whatever you want to call it, the resurrection of Planet Vegeta. And what ends up happening is Dragon Ball GT goes back to the early Dragon Ball Z lore about how a Saiyan is at his biggest strength with his tail, which is what we discussed in the Grade 8 form video, which was the first transformation guide I did several months ago. But anyways, the Kaioshin decide to regrow Goku's tail, if that makes sense, and they manage to pull it back out again, thinking that might give him a new power. Well, the gamble actually worked. So what ends up happening is you have adult Goku in a child body, but he still retains most of his strength, and he stares not at the full moon, but at the full Earth. The battle is on new planet Sufuru, and the Blutz waves, or the Blutz waves from the Earth, are glimmering into Goku's pores, and the full Earth's power seems to be astronomically higher in potency than even the moon, and triggers a transformation in Goku's body. Now, among the fandom, it's been talked about for many years that the reason why Goku was able to really tap into this form is not just the potency of the Brutes waves, but also the fact that it was Goku post Super Saiyan. Because remember, Goku and the other characters, when they achieved Super Saiyan, they didn't really have to go back to grade 8. It's a much bigger multiplier anyway, so why would you? Now, that being said, there's no clear answer as to whether or not you have to have knowledge of Super Saiyan or have to be able to transform into one to tap into the grade 8, unless you go to an interview that was done in the December 2003 issue of Anime Insider. Now, understand, Anime Insider is an American magazine, and these questions are being answered by staff that worked on the series in North America, not Shueisha or Japan. And those of you who have studied the history of the English dub, you know that Funimation made many mistakes during this time, and thus things that they say should not be taken as gospel. So in this magazine, Angelica from Phoenix, Arizona talks about the long blonde hair of Super Saiyan 3 and Super Saiyan 4's body hair and the form in between. Well, the answer that Funimation gave was that this is a special mode only achieved after Super Saiyan 3 level. That, to me, might make some sense, but it really doesn't, because Vegeta was able to do it without doing Super Saiyan 3. So you do not have to have Super Saiyan 3 to achieve this power. Now, obviously, the way Vegeta did it was different than Goku, but we'll get to that here in a minute. Nonetheless, there's no actual official statement from any guidebook that I have found that states that you have to be a Super Saiyan to unlock Golden Grade 8. But again, it does make sense. It's almost like he's going Super Saiyan inside of the Grade 8 form. But remember, when you become a Grade 8, you lose control of your mental faculties and you rampage. So Goku didn't even know what he was doing, as you can see in the series. Goku is rampaging about as a Golden Grade 8, not sure who he is or who his enemies are. But once he manages to take control of this, he mutates once again and becomes Super Saiyan 4. Now, I don't recall ever seeing an actual written multiplier for this form, but it's safe to say it's not the traditional 10 times multiplier that the regular grade 8 form has. It has to be much higher, because this version of Goku is very powerful. We first see it in Dragon Ball GT episode 33. But once Pan is able to calm him down, then he gains control of himself. He becomes SS4. Super Saiyan 4 Goku just obliterates Baby, and Baby decides that he needs a power-up. So what happens is Bulma, who at the time was already sort of a zombified version of herself under the control of Baby, she magnifies her Brutes Waves machine and manages to shoot a whole bunch of Brutes Waves at him, which evolves him into a Golden Grade Ape. So the real secret of Golden Grade Ape is the amount of Blutz waves or Brutes waves. I'm pronouncing them both different ways. You can call it however you want. It's the same thing. The amount of these waves going into a character is what really triggers the power. Because the Earth and these machines are way stronger than just the moon. Way stronger. Which makes you wonder about other planets that Saiyans may have inhabited throughout their history if this transformation was triggered elsewhere. Now, unlike Goku, Baby Vegeta in this form pretends to be rampaging around, but he has full control of himself. Now, the reason for that is because if you remember in Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta trained in his grade 8 form prior to fighting Goku. So when he did it in his first fight with Goku, he was able to have complete control of himself. And that's purely based on Vegeta's training. And because Baby's inside of Vegeta's body, he retained that ability. So Golden Grade 8 form for Vegeta acts very similar to how Grade 8 acted for Vegeta in Z. And of course, the Grade 8 form for Goku matches that as well. You got the rampaging, untrained monster as Goku, but you've got the trained, sort of more knowledgeable Vegeta here. It's kind of just being redone. That's one thing GT did kind of do, is that it really did repeat a lot of the formulas from Dragon Ball Z. Baby would do this in Dragon Ball GT episode 35, but remember, Just because baby Vegeta could do this does not mean that Vegeta by himself could, and the reality is he couldn't until Dragon Ball GT episode 59. So Bulma's Brutes Wave machine returns and this time blasts Vegeta with a lot of these damn things in his regular humanoid form, and he once again transforms to a grade 8, but this time it's a brown original Oozaru, not the golden one. But then shortly after, Vegeta transforms right away into a golden grade 8 and then right into Super Saiyan 4. So it's one of those things where it really validates the theory that golden grade 8 can be achieved from regular grade 8 if you have Super Saiyan knowledge. So to me, Vegeta's version of this actually validates that theory. Even though there's never been an official statement on it, it makes sense here. So here's a bit of random trivia that many fans probably don't know about. The Golden Oozaru form, or at least a version of it, does appear again, but not in Dragon Ball. And no, I'm not talking about Heroes. In the 1997 Dr. Slump reboot series, there is an episode where Goku becomes a grade 8 and then goes Super Saiyan. It's only in that series, in that anime, and only in that anime. There is no version of that in the Dr. Slump manga because the Slump manga came out in the early 80s, way before Toriyama even came up with the original grade 8 form. But it's cool that that TV series brought back the golden grade 8, even if it was short-lived. It's a fun little Easter egg that I always loved. Unfortunately, when it comes to Dragon Ball GT, Golden Grade 8 was only used in these instances. We never saw Gohan or anybody else use this form, and even though it's popped up again in Heroes with Cumber and other characters, it's just something that was unfortunately short-lived because I always felt like this should have been like the strongest Saiyan form, even more than Super Saiyan 4. Like I've always felt like the way it looks and the concept behind it should equal out to being incredible power. In fact, we kind of got screwed here because my whole thing was, wouldn't it have been awesome if Golden Grade 8 Goku fought Golden Grade 8 Baby Vegeta? Two Super Saiyan Grade 8s pummeling each other on a planet, destroying stuff like Godzilla. That would have been the most awesome thing ever, and we never saw it. But Golden Grade 8 will always be one of my favorite ideas, one of my favorite concepts GT did, and one that I think is just so cool and such a great throwback to where Dragon Ball first kind of started with the transforming Goku. I hope you're enjoying this transformation guide. Don't forget to leave a like on the video as well because it helps me out very much. I do appreciate it. But now let's get back to it. Super Saiyan 4 was Dragon Ball GT's evolution of the Saiyan transformation beyond what we saw in Dragon Ball Z. As I said in my Truth About GT video, Toriyama was involved in the early creative process behind GT, but as the series progressed, he was less and less involved. And because of this confusion that happened for so many years, a lot of fans believe that Super Saiyan 4 was designed by Toriyama, but it was not. He had no input whatsoever into this transformation based on every interview we've seen about GT. On the contrary, Super Saiyan 4 was designed by longtime Dragon Ball character designer and key animator Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru. And Nakatsuru was an absolute beast when it came to emulating Toriyama's style and one of the best artists that they ever had work on Dragon Ball, and he is the one who designed SS4. In fact, the first time, and to my knowledge only time, that Toriyama actually drew Super Saiyan 4 was for the Dragon Ball GT Dragon Box DVD release that would come out many years after GT was already over with. So this form, Toriyama really did nothing with it. It's Nakatsuru's baby, and yet it's still so beloved among fans. And I think the reason why it's so beloved is because of how different it is from the other Super Saiyan forms, not just in overall design, but also in how Goku attained the form. As Dragon Ball GT progressed, the writers had to come up with a higher and higher level of power, and Super Saiyan 3 was not cutting it. In fact, Goku battled Baby Vegeta and could not get the job done with Super Saiyan 3. As I said in the Golden Oozaru video, the Kais found a way to kind of tap into the Secret Saiyan power, and we saw Goku become a Golden Oozaru by taking a tremendously high amount of Brutes waves and becoming a grade 8. And then what happened was he was totally out of control. Once he was able to gain control thanks to his love for his granddaughter, he mutated one more time, controlled his body, and became Super Saiyan 4. Now, what's really interesting about this form is, like I said, how different it looks. you grow red fur on your body, you have dark hair, kind of long but not as long as SS3, you have mysterious magical pants that happen to grow, and the most important thing to me is that with the case of Goku, he was a kid throughout the majority of GT, and when he went into SS4, he went back into being adult Goku, and I'll be honest, I think part of the reason as to why fans love this form is because they were getting sick of Kid Goku, to be real with you, at least Kid Goku in GT. Now, the lore behind Super Saiyan 4 to me has always been interesting because, like I said in the Golden Great Ape video, it's implied that the Golden Great Ape is the truest form of legendary Super Saiyan, but it cannot be controlled. So thus, Super Saiyan 4 is sort of like a controlled version of Golden Great Ape, except the level above it, the mutation above it. And there's been a theory for years that the original Super Saiyan Forms 1, 2, and 3 are just gradual mutations to eventually get to this form. However, it's pretty clear and obvious that you do not have to achieve Super Saiyan 3 to get Super Saiyan 4, contrary to what Funimation may have said in interviews back in the day. No, you don't have to have SS3 to get SS4. Why? Because Vegeta didn't have to do it. However, Vegeta's way of getting Super Saiyan 4 was a little bit of cheating, to be honest with you. He had Bulma create a machine that fires a high concentration of Brutes waves right into your body, and then Vegeta became an ape, became a Golden Great Ape, and then controlled himself quickly to become Super Saiyan 4. And then from there, when Goku and Vegeta fused to make Gogeta, Gogeta 4 in Dragon Ball GT was already in Super Saiyan 4 from the start. Now, a lot of fans have theorized as to why Gogeta has red hair in GT. And the reality is you can have a million theories about it, but it's never been explained to this day as to why Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta has red hair. It looks cool. It's not like a preview of Super Saiyan God or whatever theory people might have, because Toriyama and the writers behind GT had no idea that they were ever going to do SS God. This is literally a decade or so before Battle of Gods even happened. But Goku would achieve this form in Dragon Ball GT episode 34. Vegeta would get it in Dragon Ball GT episode 59. And then there's Gogeta, who only made one appearance in Dragon Ball GT, and that is GT episode 60. But that's a fusion, not really a transformation. But hey, I love going back and watching how powerful Gogeta was. In fact, I did a Strongest in Dragon Ball video on Gogeta 4. How much of a beast, you ask? Well, Goku used Super Saiyan 4 for pretty much the remainder of Dragon Ball GT to battle all of his foes. And he made a joke out of baby Vegeta in humanoid form and was even able to defeat Golden Great Ape baby Vegeta. Obviously, he had some help for this fight, but he still was able to do it in this form. For some reason, Dragon Ball Wiki lists Goku's alternate upgraded version of this form as Full Power Super Saiyan 4. Now, Full Power Super Saiyan 4 is not an official transformation. It's not even its own transformation at all, so I'm not really sure why they listed as that, but basically, a bunch of Goku's friends and family donated their energy to Goku to power him up in order to beat baby Vegeta. That is Full Power Super Saiyan 4. But again, it's not its own transformation. That would be like saying that when Goku took energy from the Z Fighters in the first Broly movie to beat Broly, that's a different Super Saiyan form. And it's not. I mean, nobody says that. It's the same thing here. Now, I should mention that once somebody taps into Super Saiyan 4, you don't have to repeat the process again of getting the Brutes waves or staring at the moon or any of that stuff. Once you get the form the first time, your brain adapts and you can transform into it whenever you want, which is pretty handy. And when you really think about it, this form is so powerful that a child's body cannot maintain the power. It transforms you into an adult. And to me, that's always interesting because if you remember, Goku became a kid because of a wish to the Black Star Dragon Ball. So that means that Super Saiyan 4 is so powerful, it's able to temporarily nullify the wish from the dragon of the Black Star Dragon Balls. To me, that's always been really interesting and something that I wonder if they even thought through when they came up with. Now in GT, the signature attack that Goku comes up with for Super Saiyan 4 is the 10 times Kamehameha, which is basically 10 times stronger than the traditional Super Kamehameha. And I love how the beam is red, matching with the red fur of the form. It's a cool little design trick that I really enjoyed that the GT staff came up with. Now, contrary to Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4 does not have a stamina problem or really any problem. The form uses a lot of power, it is extremely powerful, and it definitely upgrades your speed, stamina, your endurance, everything. You become an absolute monster when you're in this form. However, we do find out that it does shorten the fusion time because of how much power it has. So Gogeta was only able to be fused for 10 minutes instead of the 30 minutes because, well, the writers had to come up with some way to make Gogeta not win. Even though it's kind of weird that happened, it somewhat makes sense because of how much power it is putting out and the instability of Metamore and Finger Fusion. Also, there's a misconception out there when it comes to Super Saiyan 4 that it's equally powerful to the Golden Great Ape except controlled, and that is not true. Super Saiyan 4 is much stronger than the Great Ape form, but a lot of that may have to do with the fact that Goku's mind, body, and ki are all aligned, and thus he knows how to fully use that power. That could be why that is, but I still am willing to say that it's way stronger because look at what it does. I mean, look how strong it is just watching GT. Now, for more information on this form, we can go to the GT Perfect Files guidebooks that give us a bit more information. They discuss in the guidebooks that when Goku's in Golden Oozaru, he gains what's referred to as a human heart or a compassionate heart, and the result is the birth of the mightiest of warriors, Super Saiyan 4, who combines reason with tremendous power. That was in the book, of course. Now, in the GT Perfect Files, they also discuss the whole 1,000 years, prophecy or whatever the case is, the legend that Vegeta talks about in Dragon Ball Z with how it relates to this form. And it's very interesting because there's a paragraph there that implies that only pure-blooded Saiyans can reach this form based on the fact that when Goku first got Super Saiyan, other half-breeds were able to do it shortly after that. So the legend was kind of seen as being not true or kind of overhyped, whereas Super Saiyan 4 may actually be the legendary power, or at the very least Golden Oozaru. But of course, that got somewhat nullified when the video games, and of course, we're talking about just the video games here, gave the form to Gohan. Gohan most likely can never do Super Saiyan 4. However, the video games did give the forms to Broly and Bardock, who are both purebloods. But remember, in early Dragon Ball Z, even though Gohan's a half-breed, he was still able to become a great ape. So theoretically speaking, Gohan maybe can reach it. It's up to you to decide how you want to feel about it, but it is implied that it's a form strictly for purebloods, but not outwardly stated. Now, speaking of the GT Perfect Files, there's an article in there comparing Super Saiyan 4 to Vegito that a lot of Dragon Ball fans have really got confused. So a lot of Dragon Ball fans think that Vegito is equal to Super Saiyan 4, and that's not exactly what was said. The actual translation from Herms goes as follows. After Goku and Vegeta use a merging item to merge, they become Vegito. They can furthermore become a Super Saiyan, making them Super Vegito. After two strongest people merge, they become the greatest master in the universe, perhaps even stronger than Super Saiyan 4. The fact that it says perhaps even stronger means it's possible, but whoever wrote this does not want to commit to saying that it's stronger. Maybe because they're worried about power scaling debates in Japan or among the Toei offices. I have no clue why they wrote it like that, but he's guessing that Vegito could be stronger than Super Saiyan 4. And while I do think that is a possibility, I feel like the way Goku got stronger and stronger in the series, maybe Vegito is stronger than Super Saiyan 4 during the baby fight, but possibly not the case by the end of GT, where Goku's fighting the dragons and it seems to be a lot stronger. But again, I leave that up to you. I never put too much stock in that quote. A lot of folks do. To me, it's not that important.
Okay, so some of you might be scratching your head. What is full power Super Saiyan 4? Well, firstly, I'm going to tell you what it's not. Full power Super Saiyan 4 is not the same thing as the Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 that we saw in Dragon Ball Heroes. That's a new form that was exclusive to Heroes. Full power Super Saiyan 4, also known as Ultra Full Power Super Saiyan 4, is in Dragon Ball GT. But should it be its own form? That's a big debate. But first, let me go back and tell you what actually happened. Go back to Dragon Ball GT, episode 38. During this episode, Goku was fighting Baby, and Baby had just achieved his Golden Great Ape form, and Goku in Super Saiyan 4 was extremely exhausted because of this huge fight with Baby and because his body was not accustomed to Super Saiyan 4 as of yet. So what happens is, in a moment that's somewhat eerily similar to the ritual from Battle of Gods, we have the group of Goten, Trunks, Gohan, and Pan giving Goku energy, which powers him up and allows him to continue and eventually finish off Baby and win the fight. When they powered him up, he became what is referred to as Super Saiyan 4 Full Power SS4. To me, growing up, I never considered this to be its own form at all. I just thought it was literally what it says it is. Goku gets all his power back. He's at full strength. He can tap into the absolute full power of SS4, which is how he was able to beat Baby. But there is a bit more to it if you look beneath the surface. Now, I want to say when it comes to this debate about whether or not it's an actual form, I am conflicted because this full power Super Saiyan 4 thing is not listed as its own form in any of the guidebooks. The GT Perfect files, the Daizenshus, etc. don't ever elaborate on this being its own form. And that's why I felt like it didn't need to be in the Transformation Guide. But there are some differences between Goku in this state and how Goku used to be. Namely the fact that Goku's aura begins to turn a little bit red. Now, you have to understand, there is no connection between this and Super Saiyan God, which came out like 17 years after this. It's a totally different thing. But there are similarities as far as the color they used. Now, Super Saiyan 4 Full Power does tend to have a slightly different aura. Now, was that an aesthetic design by the animators, or was that done on purpose to differentiate it? Here's the thing. In the original guidebooks, they do list the Super Saiyan grades, grade 2, grade 3, full power, etc., as its own sort of like progressive form. I did a whole bunch of transformation guides covering all of this on the channel, so check those out. But full power Super Saiyan 4 to me seems a bit similar to what was full power Super Saiyan, except that with full power Super Saiyan, the one that Goku and Gohan used, they were able to suppress their energy and use the form naturally, whereas Super Saiyan 4 Full Power seems to be just the absolute max effect of SS4. It's sort of like an advanced stage of it where Goku's senses, his hearing, his vision are improved. His speed, his power is improved. It's almost like the true version of Super Saiyan 4. Or maybe the other version was just Goku when he was just tired. He wasn't at his max power. That's up to you to decide which is which. But this wouldn't be the last time we saw this form, or whatever this is. Later on, in the Shadow Dragon arc, when Goku was fighting Sin Shenron, he also tapped into full power Super Saiyan 4 because Gohan, Goten, and Trunks allowed him to do it. So, this full power Super Saiyan 4 form seems to absorb energy from other Saiyans to make himself more powerful. And we've only seen it a couple times. So it's not like it's a recurring thing, but it's still something that's a bit of a mystery to me because does this mean that Super Saiyan 4 can absorb Brutes waves in a more intense fashion and Saiyan energy in a more intense fashion? Let's not forget that I also did a transformation guide on Super Saiyan Power, which is a form that Goku used completely by accident because it's not really real during the Otherworld tournament. So this is also a special edition like that because there's a lot of sort of conflicting arguments here about this form. When it comes to other officially licensed stuff that you can point to, Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle and Dragon Ball Legends both list this form as being Super Full Power Saiyan 4. And in Legends, you can clearly see the like light red, pinkish kind of aura coming off of Goku. So obviously it seems that they took this and ran with it. Whether it's official or not, maybe it used to not be official and now it is. That's up to you. Maybe if we get a new guidebook, we'll get answers about this form and whether or not it's considered to be official from Toei. Now, what about Gogeta? This is the big mystery here because when Goku and Vegeta in GT form Gogeta, he has red hair. Not just a red aura, he literally has red hair. But what would this form be then if he has red hair? Would this be an even higher advancement of Super Saiyan 4? Is this like beyond Super Saiyan 4 full power? Or is it just an aesthetic look for Gogeta? In previous fusions, whether it be Gotenks, Gogeta, or Vegito, we don't really see a drastic hair change except for the traditional Super Saiyan forms. So why is Gogeta's hair red? Tons of theories about this have been going on throughout the years, and we have not gotten a definitive answer. But to me, if you are to think about this logically based on the information presented in this video, you know that if there's Super Saiyan 4 and then Super Saiyan 4 full power, perhaps Goku and Vegeta did not have enough time to truly master Super Saiyan 4 at its peak, and maybe these limit breaker forms from, Heroes are just a clue that Gogeta's Super Saiyan 4 is a massive, huge, ultra, like the maximum, absolute max power of Super Saiyan 4, even beyond full power. Maybe there is a form above it. Not Super Saiyan 5, but you know what I mean. That sounds like it's a logical conclusion to make. It's a theory. Let me know in the comments what you think about this and whether or not you think it's legitimate and whether or not you have any ideas about what the red Gogeta form could be. Do me a favor and press the like button right now to help the video get traction so everybody has knowledge of what this form is. And if you are new, subscribe. I thank you for watching this special edition of the Transformation Guide. And if you enjoyed it, check these out as well.